I'm John Batchelor. This is the John Batchelor Show. Gordon Chang of Forbes.com is with me, and we're in New York, Manhattan, where you can go to the TV right now and see protests on the cable television, CNN probably as well. I don't have television on. I'm doing radio. However, it's about an incident that started July 17th in New York, Staten Island, which is a suburb of the five boroughs, extremely carefully mannered place, living happily in the revival of New York these many years. And this incident had led to the death of a man named Garner, Eric Garner. What's striking about it is that it's on video, at least the incident that, according to the medical examiner, led to his death. And the medical examiner used the word homicide and associated that with chokehold. Those are debating points that were taken by the Staten Island District Attorney, an elected position, Mr. Donovan, to a grand jury. And within these last hours, we had a surprise announcement in New York of the grand jury not returning an indictment against the police officer in question. There were several police officers. One in particular was holding Mr. Garner in such a way that it was associated with a chokehold. I come to no conclusions here because in New York, there is governance that says after the grand jury reaches a decision, the information, the data, the warrants, the testimony, the conversations before the grand jury will not be released, unlike in Missouri. So we welcome now someone to comment on this, whose job is to organize the comment of New York. This is the opinion page editor of the New York Daily News, Joshua Greenman. Joshua, a very good evening to you. And the New York Daily News right now has an editorial up that is unhappy. I'm characterizing this generally, Joshua, because I ask for your help. Unhappy with this decision. I understand Loretta Lynch, the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York, that's a federal post, is now going forward with this investigation at the federal level. Was New York expecting an indictment, Joshua? Is that part of the unhappiness tonight? Good evening to you.
Good evening. I don't know whether New York was expecting an indictment. I do know that many New Yorkers, thousands of New Yorkers, saw the video with their own two eyes and came to the conclusion independently that there was excessive force applied by the police officers, this police officer in particular, against this man, who was not happy to be taken in, but did not initiate force against the police officers. And this one police officer in particular, but kind of the group of police officers surrounding the man, Eric Garner, applied a chokehold to him, brought him down to the ground, pressed him up against the ground, and Mr. Garner can be clearly heard on this video and seen repeatedly saying that he couldn't breathe. He was a large man. He had problems with asthma, other health problems, and he expired shortly thereafter. So I think I can't speak to what New Yorkers believed the outcome would be in the criminal justice system. I do know that on a visceral level, based on what they saw on that tape, they believed that there was culpability. By and large, most people believe that there was some culpability by the police department.
Joshua, we have a newish mayor in New York who has a, let's say, tense relationship with many policemen.
Bill de Blasio is the newly elected mayor of New York who took office January 1st. Go ahead, Gordon.
And so essentially the question is, does the political tensions between the mayor's office and the police have a complicating factor in trying to resolve this going forward? How do you see this working out?
Sure. I mean, it is quite complicated. I will say a few things. Number one, Bill de Blasio won City Hall in large part on his rhetoric and promises to reform the way the police department does business, including to change the stop and frisk practice that many New Yorkers, and you can't say necessarily a majority, but many New Yorkers believed was out of control and applied in a discriminatory fashion against African American and Latino young men. And the numbers, bear out that it was applied disproportionately against those young men. You can believe that it was justifiable, but regardless, it was applied disproportionately against them. So de Blasio wins City Hall largely on, or in no small part, based upon his articulation of those concerns, and then comes in with a head full of steam to reform police department practices. He appoints Bill Bratton, who happens to be a celebrated police leader who, of course, spearheaded the New York City crime decline under Mayor Giuliani. He was not previously seen as a softie, nor is he now seen as a softie. So there is tension between the police department and de Blasio, particularly between the police unions and de Blasio. The unions, like any public sector union, they have ulterior motives, and there are lots of other things that they want to make hay about. So they are the ones who most vocally express their displeasure about de Blasio. They tend to focus on de Blasio, not on Bratton, because it's much more difficult to pierce Bratton's credibility as a law enforcement official.
We have not just the mayor of New York, but I see the governor of New York has made a statement or issued a statement on this, and the president of the United States making a statement today immediately after the announcement, and other voices, other governance voices, expressing their displeasure, discomfort, something's wrong. Maybe that's why Loretta Lynch is moving to investigate the process, I guess, in Staten Island. The puzzle here, because I don't know, this seems laden with politics, Josh. Just on the face of it, Loretta Lynch is the nominee to be the new Attorney General, and she's looking to hearings come the new year in the new Congress. So nothing about this is going to get easier as we go forward if they review the facts of the grand jury.
Well, surely not. It is in her jurisdiction, so it does kind of fall to her naturally to look into this. And I will say it's not going to be an easy road at the federal level. At the federal level, you have to prove civil rights violations, and if you can't prove criminally negligent homicide under state law, you're probably going to have an extraordinarily hard time proving civil rights violations under federal law. But so it's hard to know whether these promises are being made to look into this under federal law for, you could say, political reasons or to diffuse tension, or whether people truly believe that they're going to yield some kind of outcome against the cop. I'd be surprised if they yield an outcome against the cop.
Well, but it's early days, and we thought Ferguson was quieting down the last few days, Ferguson, Missouri. But it might be coincidence, it might be bad timing, it might be the question of a July incident followed by an August incident. But I'm struck, Josh, and at the Daily News you observe this all the time. The NYPD is totally in charge of New York City. This is not a matter, walking around New York, I don't have the feeling that I'm by myself when I'm on the streets of New York. And what I've seen today is there's a massive deployment of the NYPD. The protest tonight will be peaceful if what I observe, and I'm locked in a studio, I haven't been down on 7th Avenue yet, but if what I observe, the NYPD was ready for protest, and they're not looking to suppress it. Nobody's going to call a curfew. But this will go on for several days, Josh. That's my concern. We're in the midst of a Christmas season, and there are a lot of people in town, out-of-towners, people who've come in here. This is not an isolated part of the world, and certainly Manhattan is very crowded. Any violence here is a force multiplier. It gets very dangerous.
Sure. Well, I mean, I hope and I expect that the protests will be peaceful. There may be outliers, and there may be people a few people who are looking to start trouble. But it's people's right to express their displeasure, to express their frustration, to even express their rage at this outcome. And if they do so peacefully, and they can flood sidewalks, they can't really flood streets and block traffic, but there are many, many public places where they have every right to be. And yes, it may be an inconvenience for some, but this kind of freedom of expression is often inconvenient, and we will see whether it produces the types of reforms or otherwise answers from public officials that folks are demanding.
Joshua,
we have already seen some movement on body-worn cameras for cops. Just announced today a pilot is launching soon in New York City, and of course we've seen other movement around the country. Right,
and here's the irony of that, Josh. I'm glad you mentioned that here at the close. We have cameras on this incident. That's the puzzle here. and it didn't lead in another direction. Yes.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. If we had a cop in this case who had a camera on his body, whether we would have had any difference in the outcome at all. But it does give people some degree of comfort that at least police officers are being monitored, and if there is an incredibly heated confrontation, you won't have an endless he said, she said circumstance. Obviously, you can never control for what a grand jury may do. I mean, all you need in a grand jury, you have 23 people, and in New York, and you need 12 people to indict, and they did not have those 12 people.
Joshua Greenman is the opinion page editor at the New York Daily News. This is a breaking news story, so we will return to this in coming days. And later on tonight, I will be speaking with Richard Epstein of the Hoover Institution, a professor of law at NYU, as well as the University of Chicago, about the Garner case, as well as the tragedy in Ferguson, Missouri. Gordon Chang of Forbes.com. I'm John Batchelor.